dive into the enchanting world of Jimin's Who music video, where dance, lyrics, and visuals come together to paint a narrative of longing, love, self, and artistic exploration. This isn't just a dance. It's a journey through Jimin's evolving identity as an artist and a seeker of deeper connections. Jimin starts off in a contemplative, casual, almost with a bit of swagger, stroll, his body language mirroring the introspective lyrics. We never met, but she's all I see at night. Never met, but she's always on my mind. Jimin's forward trajectory is symbolic of a journey or quest. His movements are relaxed, almost as if he's lost in thought. But when he hits the line, "Who is my heart waiting for?" he springs to life. Just before singing the line, he tilts his head down and suddenly becomes animated. He takes a step back while bringing his left hand to his belt on the side, perhaps grounding himself. Feels like an attempt to regain control, stability, and confidence as he transitions from an inward state to a more outwardly alert one, perhaps with a slight hint of suggestivity. A calm and grounded display of masculinity that belies the chaos around him. This sequence begins with Jimin extending his arm upward, a gesture that could symbolize reaching out or searching for something beyond his immediate grasp. As he brings his hand to mouth level without touching, the movement suggests hesitation or contemplation, like holding a question close without fully articulating it. The outward and downward motion that follows feels like a release or surrender, as though he's letting go of the question into the world. It's a fluid yet deliberate motion that mirrors the emotional weight of the lyrics. This movement seems to embody a sense of questioning and longing, reflecting both introspection and outward exploration. The shape created by his movement transitions from linear, the upward reach, to circular, the inward and the outward motions, creating visual interest while reinforcing themes of searching and resolution. The fluidity of these transitions reflects an emotional journey, one that moves from questioning to contemplation to release. Jimin's use of space in this gesture is significant. The upward reach expands outward into the vertical plane, symbolizing ambition or hope, while the inward motion draws attention back to himself, emphasizing introspection. The final outward and downward release reclaims space in a grounded way, suggesting both connection to his surroundings and a willingness to let go. Then, as a female dancer enters the frame, he briefly looks back, adding a layer of curiosity or acknowledgement to the moment. This shift from calm to animated reflects Jimin's dual role in the narrative as both a romantic dreamer and an artist in search of his muse, a seamless blend of introspection and expression that defines the choreography. Jimin's outfit in the Who music video isn't just a wardrobe choice, it's a visual metaphor for his emotional and artistic journey. Let's start with the retro leather jacket, black with swirling white and earthy coloured patterns. It's rugged yet artistic, like someone who's been through life storms but hasn't lost their creative spark. Those swirling patterns? They're not just decorative, they feel like brushstrokes on a canvas, symbolizing the complexity and fluidity of identity. And to go with the larger brushstrokes, there are what appears to be white paint splattered across the sleeves. It's like saying life is messy, but there's beauty in the chaos. Then there are the distressed jeans. They're not just about looking cool, though he does. They represent wear and tear, resilience, and vulnerability. It's like he's walking some rough roads, but he's still here. Pair that with the solid black shoes, practical and grounded, and you've got a look that screams introspection without losing its edge. Now let's talk about that fitted grey t-shirt. It's simple, understated, and close to his skin, literally and metaphorically. It feels personal, almost intimate, as if he's letting us see a quieter side of himself beneath the boldness of the jacket. The intimate nature is also heightened by the few buttons that are undone, making it appear more casual and softens the rigidness of the jacket. Together, these pieces create a balance between toughness and tenderness, a duality that mirrors the themes of Who. He's searching for connection, a forever partner, love, or the muse, but he's also grounded in who he is. Then there's the black belt, which reminds us of Jimin's black belt in Taekwondo, and his practice of other martial arts disciplines, except this one is leather and comes with a cool silver buckle. It's as if the belt itself is a little nod to Jimin's mastery of precision and control, blending discipline with style. Jimin's belt seems to have a narrative of its own in Who, subtly weaving through the choreography as a grounding element. Whether he's holding it to stabilize sharp, martial arts-like movements, or using it to accentuate his hip motions, or convey subtle suggestiveness, the belt becomes more than just a functional accessory. It's almost like a quiet co-star in the dance. It draws attention to his core, emphasizing strength and control, while also serving as a visual anchor amidst the dynamic choreography. And perhaps there's something quietly poetic about how we keep following Jimin's interactions with his belt throughout the performance. It's as if the belt represents a tether to his inner world, grounding him as he navigates themes of longing and exploration. Who knew an accessory could hold so much meaning? Leave it to Jimin to turn even a simple gesture into a moment of storytelling, because when he moves, every detail feels deliberate, drawing us deeper into his narrative with effortless grace. And then there's the lighting, or more so, the lack of direct spotlighting on him or the dancers. The music video is set at night, with ambient light coming from the street lamps, neon signs, and shop windows. This isn't your typical all eyes on me setup. It integrates Jimin into his surroundings. It makes him part of the world he's navigating, a world full of distractions, but also potential meaning. Here's where it gets interesting. His outfit interacts with this lighting in a way that amplifies his introspection. The neutral and muted tones of his clothes blend seamlessly with the dim urban glow, creating an atmosphere that feels both intimate and universal. He's not standing out as a star in this moment. He's a person searching for something or someone. And let's not forget the staging. The busy urban backdrop is brimming with symbolic elements. Neon lights flashing promises of connection, a burning car representing chaos, destruction or cleansing creating order out of chaos. Jimin walks through it all with calm determination, his outfit grounding him amidst the visual noise. The world may be chaotic, but he's focused on what matters. So what does all this mean for the dance narrative? Well, Jimin isn't just wearing clothes, he's wearing his story. His retro look ties into themes of nostalgia and self-reflection, perfect for a song about searching for identity, connection, and love. The rugged yet thoughtful style reflects his willingness to explore both his inner world and his relationships with others. And when you pair this with the lighting and staging, you get a visual representation of an artist navigating love as both an emotional experience and an artistic muse. In short, Jimin's outfit doesn't just complement Who's themes, it embodies them. It tells us that identity isn't static, it evolves through introspection and connection. And as Jimin walks through that urban landscape in search of true love, his muse, and/or himself, his costume reminds us that even amidst chaos, there's beauty and meaning to be found. How's that for weaving style into substance? Jimin keeps his retro outfit throughout the music video, while each female and male dancer sports costumes unique to themselves. Leather jackets, denim shirts, t-shirts, jeans, that might represent diverse personalities or facets of identity he encounters in his search. This visual cohesion maintains individuality within unity. Through this performance, Jimin crafts a narrative that resonates with universal themes of love, desire for closer, lasting connections, and creativity. He's not just dancing, he's inviting us into his quest for deeper connections, both personally and artistically. By blending emotional depth with artistic expression, Jimin offers a narrative that's as compelling as it is relatable, making Who a profound dialogue between artist and audience. In this sequence, Jimin is a flurry of animation, his rapid hand movements and positioning in front of the female dancer suggesting a change in direction, as if he's trying to catch her attention with a bit of flair. It's like he's saying, "Hey, notice me," while singing, "If every day I think about her, yeah, every day of my life." Jimin's movements become more animated. He places himself in front of the first female dancer, facing her and the camera, and moving with her in a semi-coordinated fashion. She places her left arm on his right shoulder while looking at him, but she eventually walks on, leaving him in a dance of fleeting connections. As the female dancer enters the scene, she touches Jimin's shoulder, a gesture that could be interpreted as a gentle push, or perhaps a way to halt his movements. This brief interaction occurs while Jimin maintains an open posture, his arms extended outward in a gesture of receptiveness or vulnerability. They face each other momentarily, creating a fleeting connection, before abruptly turning back to back. This choreographed sequence beautifully captures the complexities of human interaction and the search for connection. The initial touch and face-to-face moment suggest a spark of interest or a potential connection forming. However, the quick transition to standing back-to-back could symbolize disconnection or perhaps the challenges of maintaining that initial spark. Interestingly, Jimin doesn't watch the female dancer walk away, which adds another layer to this interaction. It could represent resilience, a refusal to dwell on missed connections, or perhaps a conscious choice to remain open to new possibilities rather than fixating on what might have been. This brief yet loaded interaction encapsulates themes of fleeting connections, missed opportunities, and the constant ebb and flow of relationships. It's like watching a miniature story of attraction and separation unfold in just a few seconds. A reminder that in the dance of connection, sometimes even the briefest encounters can leave a lasting impression. As the second female dancer enters the scene, Jimin turns towards her and holds his belt. They look at each other while moving in synchrony for a few moments. Jimin stands behind her as she walks outward, creating a dynamic chasing movement with their legs crossing in a walking motion. They both move closer to the ground in a fluid motion reminiscent of a body roll, creating a sense of shared rhythm and connection. This seamlessly transitions into a combination of precise chest isolations, specifically circular chest movements, paired with intricate cross-step footwork to the right. The synchronicity of their movements emphasizes a momentary connection, a fleeting harmony in their dance. However, this unity is short-lived, as they soon disconnect, leaving the audience with a visual representation of the push and pull between intimacy and separation. This sequence beautifully captures the essence of connection and disconnection through dance, mirroring the song's themes of searching for a profound yet elusive bond. It's as if their bodies are having a conversation, speaking a language of movement that's both intimate and universal. This interaction feels brief yet charged, as though testing the boundaries of connection. When she moves on, Jimin's hands remain on his belt, a gesture that seems to ground him amidst the fleeting nature of their interaction. He then makes a hand gesture, as if asking her to come back, reflecting his yearning for connection. In this sequence, his choice to hold his belt with both hands and keep his arms relatively uninvolved speaks volumes. This restrained gesture creates a sense of grounding and stability, contrasting with the fluidity of his leg movements and the dynamic chasing motion shared with the female dancer. It's as though he's centering himself amidst the fleeting nature of their interaction, reflecting a moment of introspection or hesitation. By not reaching outward with his arms, Jimin draws attention to the subtle emotional tension in the scene, testing boundaries without fully crossing them. His grounded posture suggests he's observing or processing the connection rather than actively pursuing it. The choreography also infuses the performance with a sense of attitude, maintaining the casual swagger that characterized Jimin's walk at the beginning of the music video. This continuity and style creates a seamless flow between the opening scenes and the dance sequences, reinforcing Jimin's confident yet introspective persona throughout the piece. This restraint aligns beautifully with the song's themes of longing and uncertainty. The absence of hand gestures could symbolize holding back emotions or grappling with an inner conflict between action and restraint. When Jimin finally makes a hand gesture asking her to come back, it feels like a release, a shift from introspection to outward expression that adds emotional weight to the moment. And perhaps this choice is a reminder that sometimes what we don't say, or in this case don't move, can speak louder than anything else. It's like a perfectly timed pause in a conversation, quiet but brimming with meaning, leaving space for us to feel the weight of what's left unsaid. The third female dancer enters the frame as Jimin brings his right hand towards himself near his right shoulder while singing, "Then tell me why I haven't found her. Why? The movements in this sequence reflect a layered emotional narrative of longing and exploration. Jimin's gesture of bringing his right hand towards himself near his right shoulder could symbolize introspection, as though he's pulling the question inward, grappling with the unfulfilled search for connection. Jimin's choreography subtly evolves from reaching out towards the female dancer to pointing at himself. This transition in movement could symbolize a shift from seeking external connection to introspection. It's as if he's asking, "Who am I choosing?" And the answer, reflected in his gesture, might just be himself. This nuanced change in choreography beautifully mirrors the song's themes of self-discovery amidst the search for connection. The addition of the fourth female dancer, forming a V shape with Jimin in the front, visually reinforces the idea of branching out or expanding possibilities. His animated outward arm movements, as two more dancers join to create a square, place him at the center of this dynamic choreography, symbolizing his role as both seeker and anchor in his journey. The contrast between Jimin's bent knee leg movements and the female dancers' high, outward kicks adds another layer of meaning. While their expansive gestures suggest boldness and exploration, Jimin's more grounded movements could represent a restrained yearning or an internalized reflection. His left arm lifting up and then down contrasts with their energetic motions, subtly highlighting his introspective state amidst the livelier group dynamic. Then, as he moves out of the square formation, he makes outward gestures with his arms bent at the elbows, as though physically pushing away or reaching for something intangible. In the context of the lyrics, these movements embody both frustration and persistence. The repeated "why" echoes through the choreography, as if each movement is an attempt to answer the question or find clarity. The asymmetry between Jimin's more subdued or subtle gestures and the dancer's animated energy mirrors the tension between internal reflection and external action, a recurring theme in the song's exploration of identity and connection. It's as if Jimin is caught between searching outwardly for someone and looking inwardly to understand himself, a duality that resonates deeply with the song's emotional core. Jimin's gestures, grabbing his belt and turning towards another dancer, speak to his search for stability amidst the chaos of fleeting encounters. As more dancers enter the scene and form dynamic shapes around him, like a web of connections, his movements focus on body and leg work, while his arms remain less involved. These interactions create an intricate choreography that balances introspection with outward expression, a seamless blend of searching and grounding that defines this sequence. And perhaps there's something quietly playful about how Jimin remains at the center of this swirling choreography, like a still point in a storm, reminding us that even amidst chaos, there's a certain grace in simply holding your ground while everyone else dances around you. Jimin's movements are a delightful mix of sharp and fluid, heavy and light, a bit like trying to decide between coffee or tea in the morning, as he searches for something uncertain yet deeply desired. The coffee or tea metaphor could reflect the idea of someone exploring new possibilities rather than falling back on familiar habits or fixed perspectives. It's as though Jimin's choreography embodies the act of weighing choices, embracing the tension between comfort and curiosity, and ultimately leaning into the uncertainty of discovery. The choreography cleverly uses space to emphasize themes of search and interaction. Initially alone, Jimin is joined by dancers who form a V shape behind him and later a square around him. This spatial arrangement highlights his central role while depicting the complexity of human connections, how they can be both close and distant. The dancers form symmetrical shapes like a square around Jimin, contrasting with his earlier one-on-one interactions. This symmetry might signify the structured yet impersonal nature of broader social interactions compared to intimate connections. Jimin's performance in this sequence embodies themes of search, uncertainty, and exploration through dynamic choreography that reflects emotional complexity. His movements oscillate between sharp and fluid, heavy and light, mirroring the emotional tug-of-war present in the lyrics. The choreography highlights both isolation in personal longing and moments of potential connection within broader social contexts, as seen in his interactions with the backup dancers. The contrast between Jimin's introspective gestures, such as pointing to himself near his chest, and the expansive, high-energy movements of the dancers around him emphasizes his dual role as both seeker and anchor. The asymmetry between his grounded leg movements and the dancers' outward kicks further underscores the tension between internal reflection and external action. This duality is also echoed in the lyrics, particularly with lines like, "Then tell me why I haven't found her, why, which are mirrored by his attempts to balance introspection with outward expression. The choreography captures Jimin's narrative identity as an artist exploring love as both muse and relational identity. Through dance, he navigates the push and pull between desire for connection and the reality of its absence, a universal theme that would resonate deeply with audiences. And perhaps the highlight of this sequence is how Jimin remains at the center of these swirling dynamics, like a still point in a storm, balancing introspection with outward expression. Even amidst moments of chaos or uncertainty, Jimin's artistry reminds us that there is beauty in holding your ground while exploring new possibilities. As Jimin sings, "So many people to see, places to go, we still haven't found hello," he starts moving forward. His movements are deliberate, fluid, and deeply expressive, perfectly mirroring the song's themes of exploration and longing. He begins with open palms gestures at torso level, bringing his hand down towards his body before extending them outward again with his palms facing up. This movement incorporates wrist circles or hand isolations, adding fluidity and elegance to the choreography. These motions feel like an invitation, symbolizing openness to new possibilities while underscoring the search for connection. The camera moves closer, capturing a moment of intimacy as Jimin briefly looks into it, before turning his head away in the direction of his walk. When he sings "Places to Go," Jimin takes a larger step forward, adding a subtle head gesture towards his mouth and extending his hand outward with an open palm slightly pointing upward. This deliberate movement conveys a sense of urgency and determination, as if each step is propelling him closer to something unknown. Meanwhile, a shopping trolley on fire with a TV in it rolls by, a surreal visual that juxtaposes chaos against Jimin's calm focus. As 6 male dancers enter the frame during "We Still Haven't Found Hello," they match Jimin's exaggerated steps with high energy and precision. Together they form a wide triangle with Jimin at the center, emphasizing his role as both leader and focal point. The group choreography is sharp and dynamic, involving expansive leg and arm gestures that radiate confidence and momentum. It's as though their movements collectively echo the song's driving rhythm while amplifying its emotional depth. The sequence alternates between fluidity and sharpness, reflecting both introspection and urgency. Jimin's solo gestures are controlled, yet expressive, while the group's synchronized energy adds dynamism and a sense of collective purpose. Jimin transitions from solitary movements to leading a coordinated group performance, using space effectively to convey themes of connection and exploration. The wide triangle formation emphasizes unity, while reinforcing Jimin's central role in the narrative. The symmetrical shapes formed by the dancers around Jimin highlight harmony and balance within the choreography. At the same time, Jimin's solo movements stand out as moments of introspection amidst the collective energy, a visual metaphor for individuality within shared experiences. The choreography accompanying the chorus lyrics this time is sharp, precise, and highly synchronized, with movements that exude discipline and purpose. With Jimin leading the 6 backup dancers in a wide triangle formation, at times individual movements like Jimin's belt-holding gesture or different hand placements break away from this symmetry to highlight his introspective journey amidst the collective energy. As the backup dancers strike a pose with a synchronized finger click, they momentarily break from perfect symmetry, each adding a subtle touch of individuality before seamlessly returning to their collective formation. A fleeting expression of personal flair within the larger choreographic narrative that beautifully captures the delicate balance between connection and individuality. The sharp and precise martial arts-like quality of the choreography, which looks purposeful, disciplined, and grounded, adds a sense of focus and strength to the emotional undertones of the lyrics. As Jimin sings, "We never met, but she's all I see at night," he and the dancers perform high-energy leg, arm, and hip movements, the right hand's moving straight up with the palms facing outward, while his left hand extends downward with palms open, creating a visual duality, perhaps symbolizing reaching outward for connection while remaining grounded. The sharp crossing of the right leg in front of the left could symbolize a closing off, or hesitation before transitioning into a wide leg stance, with a subtle and streamlined forward and sideways hip movement. This shift feels like an assertion of confidence and strength, as well as restraint. Such restraint mirrors Jimin's maturity as an artist who does not solely rely on overt sensuality or spectacle to captivate his audience when the storyline doesn't call for it. Instead, he uses minimalism to focus attention on his emotional delivery and storytelling. Incidentally, just before the group dance starts, we see a crow rapidly flying in and out of the screen, a subtle detail at the edge of the frame. This fleeting image reminds us of the bold and provocative hip movements in BTS's BAPSE, Silver Spoon choreography. While Silver Spoon is a satirical critique of social inequality, with movements that embody defiance, confidence, and rebellion against oppressive structures, the crow in Who seems to be on a different mission entirely. One might playfully imagine that the crow, opposed to the crow tip from Silver Spoon, represents a lingering urge for overt defiance, but Jimin's elegant silver buckle on that black belt tells a different story. Of course, this is just a bit of fun speculation. There's no evidence in the lyrics or visuals of Who to support such an interpretation. For all intents and purposes, it's simply a crow flying by, minding its own business before the group dance begins. Perhaps it's just on its way to catch a screening at the cinema. After all, even crows need a break from being symbolic sometimes. Going back to Jimin's group dance with the 6 male dancers, as the dancers move in perfect harmony, their symmetry emphasizes unity and collective purpose, while Jimin's central position reinforces his role as the narrative anchor. The grounded strength conveyed by the downward hand movements and the understated and controlled hip motions align with the lyrics' yearning for something deeply desired, yet elusive. The choreography doesn't just illustrate the song, it embodies its emotional push and pull. And perhaps what makes this sequence so compelling is how it balances sharp discipline with emotional vulnerability, like watching someone carefully piece together a puzzle while carrying the weight of their own unanswered questions. This sequence is a picture of grounded strength. Notably, there's a subtle difference in how Jimin and the dancers execute the hip movement. Jimin's use of his belt to accentuate movements adds a personal touch, while the dancers subtly mirror his actions with their own flair. This distinction subtly reinforces Jimin's individuality within the group dynamic. It could mean that Jimin remains grounded and introspective at this moment, while the dancers amplify the energy around him. This contrast could symbolize Jimin's internal emotional journey amidst external expressions of strength and unity. It's as if he's navigating his own questions while leading a collective exploration, an interplay that adds depth to both meaning and movement. The movements accompany the lyrics, "Never met but she's always on my mind," are intricate and layered, reflecting the emotional tension and introspection of the song. As the legs momentarily come back together, the arms move inward and the hands touch opposite shoulders before closing in front of the chest. The inward motion could symbolize self-reflection or containment, as though Jimin is drawing his thoughts inward, holding onto something deeply personal. When the hands move to the back of the head and then extend straight out to the sides before returning to the chest with palms facing inward, it feels like a cycle of internalization and outward expression. a physical embodiment of grappling with emotions and then releasing them. The choreography then transitions into sharp, precise movements where heads turn while legs perform bent knee kicks and arms follow both vertical and horizontal motions. This dynamic interplay of directions might represent mental conflict, when he's putting his hand on his head a bit fitfully before he says, "mind." It's like he's wrestling with the thought or a struggle to reconcile his imagination with reality. An apt reflection of the lyric's theme of longing for someone who exists only in the thought. The repetition of this pattern to both sides adds a sense of balance, as though Jimin is searching for clarity amidst emotional turbulence. When Jimin crosses his hands and brings his right hand to his head with his palm facing inward, a puzzle gesture, it visually reinforces the idea that she's always on my mind. This movement feels intimate and contemplative. It's as if he's physically holding on to the thought that consumes him. The sequence concludes with a wide step and sharp martial arts-like movements, involving both vertical and horizontal motions. This final gesture exudes strength and control, as though Jimin is channeling his emotions into purposeful action. The sequence evolves into more open, multi-dimensional leg and arm movements during "Wanna Give Her the World" and so much more, culminating in a 360 turn followed by a clicking fingers gesture towards the ground, as if sealing his intent while all the dancers come closer together. The final moments of this sequence represent wide stances with arms extended outwards, as Jimin sings, "Who is my heart waiting for?" His right arm then closes towards his left shoulder in a gesture that feels both reflective and protective, almost as if he's grabbing a pick and strumming an invisible guitar. A subtle nod to Smeraldo Garden Marching Band, perhaps. This sequence captures themes of longing and commitment through choreography that balances precision with emotional depth. Jimin's solo gestures reflect introspection and yearning, while the group dynamics highlight unity and a shared purpose. The interplay between individual expression and collective movement mirrors life's tension between personal desires and broader connections. And perhaps what makes this sequence so compelling is how effortlessly it blends discipline with storytelling. Watching Jimin lead this synchronized choreography feels like witnessing someone navigate their inner world while staying perfectly attuned to those around them. Because sometimes finding harmony means mastering both solitude and togetherness. It's a reminder that even amidst complexity, there's beauty in moving forward with grace and intention. Plus, just enough flair to keep us captivated. This sequence begins with Jimin and two dancers walking dynamically to the left, while four other dancers walk to the right, creating a sense of movement and directionality as they head towards the cinema building. Then comes a prominent skip and forward launch as Jimin sings, "I'll take her places they ain't found yet," adding a burst of energy to the choreography. The dancers turn to the camera with a wide leg and arm movement, Jimin stabilizing the moment by holding his belt, a move reminiscent of earlier sequences with a group of 6 male dancers. The choreography here is again sharp and rapid, with movements that echo martial arts in their precision, strength, and grounded composure. Every step feels intentional, there's no excess here, it's all about focus and purpose. The fact that only Jimin is holding his belt in this sequence, while the other two dancers keep their arms free, adds a subtle yet significant layer to the choreography. Jimin's gesture of holding his belt could symbolize grounding, control, or even a sense of composure amidst the dynamic and high-energy movements around him. It visually sets him apart from the other dancers, reinforcing his role as the narrative anchor and leader of the scene. The belt-holding gesture draws attention to his core and lower body movements, emphasizing a sense of stability and purpose in contrast to the freer arms of the other dancers. This contrast might also symbolize individuality within a collective context. While Jimin is grounded and deliberate, the other two dancers' free arms could represent openness or adaptability, creating a visual balance between restraint and fluidity. In the context of the lyrics, "I'll take her places they ain't found yet," Jimin's grounded composure could signify his determination and readiness to lead with intention, while the freer movements of the others suggest exploration or flexibility in navigating new possibilities. This subtle difference highlights the interplay between control and spontaneity, reminding us that even within shared journeys, each person brings their own approach to moving forward. The movements in this sequence, as Jimin sings, "I'll put it all on the line," are deliberate and synchronized, reflecting themes of commitment and shared purpose. The upward rise of the right hands with palms facing inward, followed by a sweeping motion down in front of the body, could symbolize a gesture of offering or dedication. It's as if Jimin and the other dancers are physically embodying the act of putting everything forward, an outward expression of vulnerability and resolve. The synchronized nature of the movement reinforces unity and collective focus, while maintaining Jimin's central position as the narrative leader. This choreography aligns beautifully with the lyrics, emphasizing both personal and shared commitment. The deliberate eye contact with the camera adds an intimate layer, as though Jimin is directly addressing the audience, pulling them into his journey. And perhaps there's something quietly striking about how these movements balance strength with grace. It's not just about taking bold steps forward, but doing so with intention and composure. It's a visual reminder that sometimes putting it all on the line isn't just an act of courage, it's an act of trust in oneself and those walking alongside you. The two dancers eventually turn back and leave the scene, leaving Jimin to continue walking forward as he sings, "I'll be that someone she can count on." The camera stays focused on his torso as he delivers the lines with conviction. Then, as he sings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Jimin enters the scene in front of the cinema building. This subtle counting could allude to Who, being the 6th song in the Muse album, which is designed as a progression in the depth of connection and love, from the hopeful imaginary crush in Rebirth to the playful transitional joy in interlude Showtime, confessional and sincere love in Smeraldo Garden Marching Band, romantic and fleeting intimacy in Slow Dance, seductive and passionate devotion in Be Mine, and finally, longing and unfulfilled connection in Who. The counting also evokes a sense of reliability and trust, much like the unchanging certainty of numbers themselves, a universal constant that mirrors the dependable support Jimin promises to embody. Just call my name out whenever you need me. Meanwhile, a burning car appears in the corner of the screen, a dramatic backdrop that Jimin doesn't acknowledge, maintaining his focus on his journey. A female dancer emerges from in front of the cinema building, walking towards Jimin with smaller steps compared to his deliberate strides. Their paths converge in a moment charged with quiet anticipation. The little hair flick the female dancer does is maybe showing interest for connection that Jimin takes up. This sequence beautifully captures the themes of exploration and connection present in the lyrics. Jimin's unwavering focus amidst the chaos of the burning car symbolizes his determination in his search for connection. The contrast between his deliberate strides and the female dancer's smaller steps creates a visual tension that mirrors the anticipation in their encounter. The hair flick by the female dancer also adds a subtle layer of intrigue, suggesting a potential spark of interest that Jimin responds to. It's as if their choreographed movements are having a conversation of their own, speaking volumes about the delicate dance of human connection. As Jimin sings, "So many people to see, places to go," his movements are both expressive and deliberate. He holds the female dancer's arm, pulling her gently towards himself, creating a visually compelling moment of connection. It's like he's saying, "Come here, let's explore this dance floor together." But just as quickly, the power dynamic shifts when she wraps her arm around his neck with a move that says, "Nice try, but I'm leading this dance now," while simultaneously extending their right arms outward in a stirring motion, fingers splayed wide open. This creates an image of reaching beyond their immediate connection, while also introducing tension into the interaction. Before this shift occurs, though, the synchronized body waves they create, a fluid motion symbolizing unity and separation, add depth to the moment. The waves suggest an ebb and flow of emotions, capturing both harmony and tension within their interaction. When the female dancer wraps her arm around Jimin's neck, creating the appearance of discomfort or even a choking sensation, it could symbolize a shift in power dynamics and emotional vulnerability. This moment may represent the tension between connection and control. Jimin starts by gently pulling her towards him, symbolizing invitation to connect. But the subsequent arm-around-neck gesture shifts the balance, as if she's asserting dominance or leading the interaction. It's a visually striking moment that highlights the complexities of relationships, where longing for closeness can sometimes feel overwhelming or constricting. The choreography then takes a sharp turn as their arms extend outwards in the stirring motion. As she pushes him away with her right hand, Jimin steps back without resistance, maintaining eye contact until she turns and exits the scene. It's like watching a dramatic tango with a twist, where every move tells its own story. The dance transitions from fluid and light to sharp and heavy, mirroring the evolving dynamics between Jimin and the female dancer. This shift reflects the complexity of their connection, initially close and harmonious, but ultimately leading to a distance and separation. It's as if they're performing an emotional roller coaster on stage. As Jimin sings, "We Still Haven't Found Hello," 5 male dancers enter the scene, and Jimin joins them with a wide step and a head tilt, immediately commanding focus. Then, as he begins to sing the chorus, "We've never met, but she's all I see at night. Never met, but she's always on my mind. Wanna give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for?" The choreography evolves into a dynamic group dance. This sequence feels reminiscent of the earlier group dance with 6 dancers, sparking curiosity about the significance of the number 5 here. Could it tie back to the line, "I'll be that someone she can count on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or perhaps it's a subtle nod to the 199222 number on the pamphlet that we saw at the opening scene of the music video, where 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6. Jimin and the 5 dancers, maybe. Or maybe it's simply an artistic choice to balance the choreography with the 6 female dancers who appear later. Either way, this asymmetry adds intrigue. And let's admit it, the odd choice of 5 dancers creates visual complexity and mystery. As we zoom in on the crowd sequence in front of the camera, we stumble upon a peculiar sight. The crowd we initially mistook for eager BTS fans turns out to be, well, not what we quite expected. It's a mostly male audience, devoid of the usual sea of army buns and conspicuously lacking in even a single Yoongi marry me sign. Talk about a plot twist. This isn't your typical BTS crowd. It's more like a gathering of stoic statues who've wandered off from their museum gig. Who are these mysterious onlookers? Are they secret agents disguised as casual bystanders? Or perhaps they're method actors preparing for roles as extremely serious concert goers? Or maybe they're just really, really good at playing hard to get with their fandom. Whatever the case, this unexpected audience adds another layer of intrigue to Jimin's performance. It's as if he's dancing not just for the camera, but for a crowd that's mastered the art of poker face. And here we thought counting backup dancers was the most perplexing part of this scene. Okay, back to the dance sequence. 2 male dancers are positioned on Jimin's right and 3 on his left, performing an asymmetrical arrangement that departs from the symmetry seen in earlier group dances. This setup seems intentional, creating visually dynamic patterns that evolve as the choreography progresses. When 6 female dancers enter the scene, and both groups shift spaces in front of the cinema building, the male dancers' movements become less composed compared to their earlier sequences. They jump away as a group, some performing 360 turns, one sliding intentionally and another falling, all while appearing uncoordinated and facing different directions. It's like watching a group of friends trying to freestyle at a party, except here it's choreographed chaos at its finest. The female dancers, while also less composed at this point, maintain a higher level of synchronization than the males, creating an interesting contrast before both groups regain their full synchronization. Meanwhile, Jimin observes this controlled chaos with quiet composure as paper pamphlets swirl around in the wind. It's as though this juxtaposition between order and disorder mirrors the emotional push and pull of searching for connection amidst uncertainty, a theme that runs deeply through both the song and its choreography. As Jimin sings, "Who is my heart waiting for? Is she someone that I see every day? Is she somewhere 1,000 miles away?" The choreography takes on a beautifully layered complexity. The male and female dancers, including Jimin, move toward each other and form two concentric circles. Female dancers on the outer circle, male dancers on the inner. This double circle formation, often seen in folk and social dances, adds a sense of tradition, typically allowing partners to face each other, encouraging interaction. However, in this sequence, the second partner mix takes a unique turn. While the male and female dancers move in coordination, the female dancers face outwards, away from their partners. The choreography cleverly mirrors the lyrics. During "Is she someone that I see every day?" the first partner change is face-to-face, dynamic and joyful. By contrast, during "Is she somewhere 1,000 miles away?" the outward-facing female dancers create a sense of distance and disconnection. The first partner interaction feels lively and flirtatious, with light and flowing movements. The dancers, including Jimin, make an inviting gesture towards their partners, and big outward arm movements and playful leg kicks. Hands sweep across their heads in a gesture that looks like adjusting their hair, a detail that adds a touch of charm and lightheartedness. Jimin's expression during the sequence is soft and joyful, radiating warmth. The second partner exchange begins with an inviting hand gesture, but feels more restrained. While the movements remain big and dynamic, there's less flow between partners. Jimin subtly touches his belt as if to center himself, a grounding gesture amidst the outward-facing female dancers who do not engage directly with him. This subtle shift underscores the emotional distance conveyed in the lyrics. The sequence concludes with a 360 turn before the group begins to dissolve. Jimin moves to the front as he sings, "Wanna give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for?" And perhaps what makes this sequence so captivating is how it plays with proximity and distance, both physical and emotional. The face-to-face joy of the first partner mix contrasts sharply with the outward-facing detachment of the second, reflecting how relationships can oscillate between closeness and separation. This subtle shift in orientation adds emotional depth. It's as if the connection is distant or elusive, despite their coordinated movements. It's like watching a dance floor become a metaphorical map of human connection, sometimes near enough to touch, sometimes impossibly far away. As the group dissolves and the dancers walk away from Jimin, only one female dancer at the right front continues to watch him, maintaining a subtle connection that he either misses or chooses to ignore. Instead, his gaze follows in the opposite direction, where the last partner he danced with heads off. Interestingly, this lingering dancer is someone Jimin never directly interacts with during the choreography, leaving her symbolic as a next partner in a dance that ends before their connection can even begin. The scene reaches its peak as a striking black screen dramatically descends before Jimin like a curtain fall following a performance, clearly marking its end, displaying two powerful messages, "Keep going" and "Who," against a deep, dark backdrop. Adding to the intrigue is a distorted silhouette of a face on the screen, with one prominent eye catching the viewer's attention. This visual punctuation mark serves as both an ending and a beginning, leaving viewers with a thought-provoking image that echoes themes of persistence amidst uncertainty and self-discovery, as well as in the search for closer connection and love. Let's dive into the sequence where Jimin walks back from the cinema, a moment that feels like a reflective journey through fleeting encounters. As he sings, "Who is my heart waiting for?" the choreography subtly explores themes of identity and connection. And isn't it interesting how the lyrics almost seem to pose two questions: who is my heart? And who is my heart waiting for? It's as if Jimin is not only searching for someone else, but also grappling with his own sense of self. Because let's face it, sometimes finding ourselves is the hardest audience to please. Sometimes we're our own greatest critics. As Jimin walks back from the cinema, male and female dancers pass by him, moving in the opposite direction. Among these fleeting moments, he briefly dances with three female dancers, each interaction unique in tone and intensity. His movements are soft and flowing during the whole sequence. The first encounter is a simple yet poignant moment. Jimin and the female dancer stop and turn back toward each other, creating a fleeting but powerful connection. Jimin makes a striking gesture. One arm rests on his chest at heart level, while the other stretches wide open, only to close across his body and meet the first hand, as if one hand is pressing down the other from where it was over his heart. This movement feels deeply symbolic, as though he is reconciling vulnerability with restraint or longing with closure. The two then continue walking in opposite directions, their paths diverging. It's an understated moment, almost like a passing glance that lingers just long enough to make you wonder about its significance, and metaphor for connections that are felt but not fully realized. The second encounter is brief yet impactful. As Jimin and the female dancer cross paths, they both take a step back, creating a moment of shared hesitation. The female dancer steps back with a subtle body roll, her movement fluid and deliberate, while Jimin glances back at her, his gaze lingering for just a moment. Then, without further interaction, they both turn back to their respective paths and continue walking. This fleeting exchange feels charged with unspoken meaning, as if it encapsulates the tension between connection and separation, an almost connection that dissolves as quickly as it forms. And incidentally, the crow is sitting on the blue car and flies off as they part ways. In the third encounter, as Jimin and the female dancer cross paths, they cross their arms above their heart level before gracefully lowering, pausing in a mirrored gesture that maintains a sense of connection while avoiding direct contact. Jimin's left hand then rises again to its original position, extending outward toward his back in a fluid motion that seems to guide his body as he turns toward her, leaning slightly forward. This subtle yet deliberate gesture conveys a sense of reaching out or seeking connection, albeit momentarily. After this fleeting interaction, Jimin turns back and continues walking, leaving the moment behind, while the camera focuses solely on him as he sings the poignant line, "Who is my heart waiting for?" a question that encapsulates the emotional depth of his introspective journey. These brief dances are layered with meaning, as though each one represents a different level of resonance or pull between Jimin and these passing individuals. The shapes formed during these encounters are asymmetrical and appear random, underscoring the unpredictability of human connections. Each interaction feels spontaneous, as though choreographed to mimic the randomness of real-life encounters. The dynamics of Jimin's movements shift with each encounter, reflecting varying emotional tones and levels of connection. These variations suggest different impacts, some fleeting, others more profound. Notably, Jimin looks back at each partner, approaching all encounters with a similar, hopeful energy. However, the last interaction seems to leave a lasting impression on him. After this moment, he makes a distinct hand gesture in her direction before continuing on. Interestingly, the first and third dances in sequence appear to require more effort and complexity in their execution, adding to their emotional weight within the choreography. As Jimin sings, "We never met, but she's all I see at night," he walks slowly towards the middle of the street, echoing the opening scene of the video. This measured pace reflects the introspective nature of the lyrics, as if he's inviting us on a journey through his inner world. When he turns to face the camera, a tornado in the background dramatically swoops up a car, a visual nod to the "tornado of love" concept introduced in the music video's opening pamphlet. This whirlwind suggests a powerful metaphor for the emotional storm brewing within Jimin, dominated by a love that seems to stem from deep resonance and caring rather than fleeting infatuation. It's as if Jimin is the eye of the storm, calm and focused amidst the chaos, navigating his inner search with quiet determination. As Jimin sings, "Never met, but she's always on my mind," the camera zooms in for a close-up, revealing a vulnerability in his expression that speaks volumes. This intimate moment emphasizes the deeply personal nature of his emotional journey, inviting us into his inner world. As he continues walking, now passing between 4 parked cars, Something magical happens. Plumes of sparkles erupt behind one of the vehicles. It's as if the ordinary urban landscape is suddenly touched by a bit of fairy dust, creating a striking visual metaphor. These sparkles seem to represent the fantasy-like quality of Jimin's imagination, bringing to life the ethereal presence of someone he's never met but can't stop thinking about. This juxtaposition of the gritty, real-world setting with the unexpected burst of sparkles perfectly captures the essence of Jimin's quest. It's a beautiful reminder that even in the most mundane surroundings, our minds can conjure up moments of wonder and possibility. And perhaps there's something quietly poetic about how these sparkles appear just as Jimin walks by, as if his very presence has the power to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, much like the way his thoughts turn an unseen person into a constant, shimmering presence in his mind. Then the moment comes with a visual cue of contrasting bright colours momentarily flashing on the screen, as if a glitch is happening, when Jimin sweeps his hair back, and oh, what a sweep it is. It's not just any hair push. It's the kind that makes even gravity sit up and take notice. As Jimin's hand glides through his hair in a fluid motion, the haters sign crashes down dramatically behind him. It's as if he's literally brushing off negativity with a single, effortless gesture. This hair sweep becomes a visual punctuation mark, emphasizing the power of self-assurance in the face of obstacles. This moment in the choreography is truly impressive, blending magic and control in a way that's quintessentially Jimin. It's reminiscent of his performance in Filter, where he effortlessly embodies both the enchanting genie and the wishful Aladdin. Why choose between granting wishes and making them when you can do both? Jimin's artistry continues to show us that sometimes the most captivating option is embracing duality. And speaking of Filter, from now on when we listen to it, we're picking both Genie and Aladdin. After all, why settle for one or the other when Jimin so beautifully demonstrates the power of embodying both roles? It's a reminder that in dance, as in life, we don't always have to choose. Sometimes the magic lies in embracing all facets of ourselves. As Jimin's walk becomes more animated, we see a palpable shift in energy that mirrors the emotional journey of the song. His movements transition from introspective to outwardly expressive, suggesting a growing sense of purpose, or perhaps a profound clarity. The hand-to-heart gesture during "Who is my heart waiting for?" is a powerful moment of choreographic storytelling. This simple yet profound movement directly embodies the lyrics, transforming the abstract concept of love into a tangible, physical sensation centered within Jimin's own body. It's as if he's pinpointing the exact location of his longing, making the intangible tangible through dance. When the 6 male and 6 female dancers enter the scene, the choreography expands both physically and metaphorically. Their presence seems to represent the myriad possibilities of connection that surrounds Jimin, materializing like thoughts taking physical form. This transition from solo to group dance could symbolize the shift from internal contemplation to external exploration. However, the contrast between the dancers' celebratory choreography and Jimin's body movements is striking. While the ensemble engages in lively, upbeat dance sequences, Jimin's movements tell a different story. His choreography appears to be more introspective and emotionally charged, creating a powerful juxtaposition that highlights the complexity of his inner journey. This visual contrast serves to emphasize Jimin's unique role in the narrative, showcasing his ability to convey deep emotion even as the energy around him remains high and jubilant. The moment when Jimin bends down, crossing his legs and adopting a protective posture, is particularly striking. This closed, almost fetal position contrasts sharply with his previous openness, suggesting vulnerability or perhaps the weight of his unanswered questions physically manifesting. It's as if the enormity of "Who is my heart waiting for?" momentarily overwhelms him, causing him to curl inward for protection or reflection. As he continues walking forward with crossed legs, we see a powerful visual representation of internal struggle. His movements oscillate from side to side, legs crossing in front of each other, as if he's fighting against an invisible force pulling him down while simultaneously trying to push himself up. This back and forth motion, taking steps both forward and backwards, creates a sense of emotional turbulence that starkly contrasts with the cool, calm, and collected sequences we saw earlier in the video. The choreography here feels like a physical manifestation of heavy frustration weighing Jimin down. It's not despair, but rather an intense moment of questioning, a bodily expression of, "Why, God, why?" Though he's singing, "Who is my heart waiting for?" then is she someone that I see every day? Is she someone 1,000 miles away? His movements seem to echo the unspoken lyrics. Why, why? It's as if his body is engaged in its own dialogue, expressing the internal turmoil that his voice doesn't articulate in that moment. This sequence beautifully captures the emotional complexity of searching for connection and understanding of both self and the other. This struggle between moving forward and being pulled back serves the push and pull of longing and uncertainty. Jimin's choreography here serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes our bodies express what our words cannot. The weight of unanswered questions and the relentless pursuit of connection. However, this moment of vulnerability is fleeting, with a synchronized jump with the right hand raised that feels like a collective reaching for something higher, perhaps love, perhaps self-discovery. Jimin joins the celebratory dance. His choreography quickly transitions into a lively celebratory dance, featuring wider steps and animated palm movements. This sequence captures the emotional rollercoaster of seeking love and connection. This sudden shift in energy and posture is like watching the ebb and flow of emotions during the search for love. One moment, we're curled up, questioning everything, and the next we're reaching out with hope and enthusiasm. The wider steps could represent expanding horizons or growing confidence, while the animated arm movements might symbolize embracing new possibilities or reaching out for connection. The close-up of Jimin's arm movements, from heart to outward extension, beautifully illustrates the lyrics. I want to give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for? It's a physical manifestation of generosity and openness. And when he turns his back to the camera, walking away casually, it leaves us with a sense of continuity. The search isn't over, it's an ongoing journey. And perhaps there's something profound about how Jimin embodies these transitions so seamlessly, reminding us that in the dance of life and love, every step, whether hesitant or bold, is part of the journey. At the end of the Who sketch music video filming, after completing his final sober and deliberate walk back to where he started, Jimin spontaneously runs back to the screen with an infectious charm to check out what they've just recorded. It's a moment that feels delightfully unscripted, almost like a behind-the-scenes encore to his meticulously crafted performance. If the choreography of Who is a masterclass in emotional storytelling, then this little clip is the perfect postscript. A reminder that even amidst all the intensity, Jimin's natural charisma shines through effortlessly. And perhaps we can't help but think, was this impromptu run the real highlight of the choreography? Totally spontaneous, of course, because who needs a dramatic finale when you've got Jimin running back with this kind of energy? It's as if he's saying, let me just double check, I'm pretty sure I nailed it. And he absolutely did. A special shout-out is in order for the incredible dancers and Jimin's team who brought Who to life. Their dedication and skill are evident in every frame, from the perfectly synchronized group dances to the seamless transitions and captivating solo moments. The choreography's precision, the video's stunning visuals, and the overall production quality are a testament to the talent and hard work of everyone involved. Jimin's performance and uniquely beautiful voice shines even brighter thanks to the collective effort of his exceptional team.